Hello, hockey world. It's 2 days before the trade deadline. We'll call it March something, 2024.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm not in my basement.
I'm Anthony Mingioni, driving.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology sitting.
Yes, Eklund in my war room. And you're welcome to the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is a podcast that comes to you every Monday through Friday. And welcome to the trade deadline, because here we are already now. We've hit the trade deadline. I mean, today it's all started off with our friends in Florida making a trade, and that just opened up the floodgates, and it's going. We have so many different trades to talk about. Let's start, I think, with what I think is the most significant trade, Mike. And you're in Toronto with Buffalo people.
Mm-hmm.
The Sabres Colorado deal to me is just absolutely crazy.
Well, it's funny because we've been talking about this on off the post off and on the last couple months about Casey Mittelstadt, and we looked at the situation where Mittelstadt was a restricted free agent with arb rights 1 year away from unrestricted free agency.
Yep.
The Sabres had Dylan Cousins and Tage Thompson both signed for over $7 million for multiple years. And the speculation out there was that they were going to, if they couldn't get Mittelstadt on a deal that was reasonable, which, he's leading the team in scoring. And he took a 3-year bridge deal. He was slow in developing, but he's really good now, that they were going to have to trade him.
Right.
And Russ and I sort of battled on that. I don't know. I don't know if it's the right move. I do know that the return that they got was phenomenal, because I've always been a fan of Bowen Byram, and now you've got a defense of Dahlin, Power, Bowen Byram, Samuelson, Ryan Johnson, and Yoki Haru. The only thing is, I think, is a concern is that all of them are left-handed.
That's true, but I mean, gosh, you have arguably the best defense in the league now. I mean,
let's just say it's up there. Potentially, it's one of the best. But I mean, this is the thing. They have depth up the middle with the two guys that I mentioned. Peyton Krebs, who I saw about a month ago, them moving him up to third line center. And I said to myself, okay, they're testing him to see whether he can play higher in the lineup. Plus, they got Savoy and Kulich. They're deep up the middle, and they just were not going to pay Mittelstadt, even though he deserves to get paid. And
right.
if you look at Colorado, they traded Russ and your favorite Ryan Johansson to the Flyers to get rid of his salary, and they installed Mittelstadt as the number 2 behind McKinnon. I mean, that's pretty good too.
Yeah. We'll get to that. We'll get to the Flyers trade in a second too. But yeah, when I first saw this trade, I thought, man, there has to be something else going. I texted you guys too. Like, I felt like there was maybe Buffalo was sending a first or second round draft pick.
Well, here's the key to this deal for the Sabres. Mm-hmm. Like I said, Mittelstadt's contract situation, he could be unrestricted after next year. Byram is 22. He's 3 years younger. He's got another year left in his contract at $3.85 million, and then he's retainable for another 2 years.
I know. So, look at this. But like you said, look at that defense. I mean, that top 4 is just sick.
It's really good. I think what's happened is the need for Colorado outweighed what Byram might be, because he hasn't reached his potential yet because of injuries and such. And so I think that, at this point, they're a team that really can't wait for that.
Yeah.
And I think they got Mittelstadt on another year, which is smart. So at least that patches their problem up for 2 years, and then they could see, a year and a half. And then they can see what's up. And I think it works for both. I think, it makes Buffalo, I would say they'd be, in the top 10 for defense. And that's because the young guys haven't really reached their potential yet. But, hey, it looks good for them. And
I mean, just Colorado, 5 years from now, right? Like 5 years from now with that defense, if they stay
it should look great. This is dangerous for Colorado, though. Like, this is what Colorado needed.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. This is the thing. Switching to Colorado here that I don't get. I get the additional Mittelstadt, and I like Mittelstadt. He's really good, and I think he's a good number 2 option behind McKinnon.
He's better than people think, right?
Yeah.
People out there saying, Mittelstadt, this is crazy, because I remember Mittelstadt as being a guy who's been up and down, up and down, up and down.
He's a very good playmaker. No, he's been consistently getting better and better. Like, he had 50 some odd points last year. He's on schedule for about 60 this year. No, he's a really good playmaker, and I think that's a good move for Colorado in terms of the number 2 center, and they can get him signed on a long-term deal, probably paying him around or probably a little more than what Johansson's making.
Right.
But the risk to them is you've got Devin Taves and you've got Makar, who is probably the best pairing in the league, and then Josh Manson now is your number 3. After that, it takes a significant drop. And Sean Walker, I'm sorry, Sean Walker could be the most overrated guy at this deadline.
We're gonna find out because this, he's obviously gonna be thrusted into a big role there, and with him like coming in and Byron going out, that's way more pressure on Walker than I think anyone could have anticipated. He's very good, Mike. He's been very good this year, and
he's had a great year. He has. Yeah. He's had a good year. I think started off particularly well, strong, and then kind of dipped a little bit because again they bring in Drysdale and some of the ice time gets cut into there. But I still think his value as a right shot defenseman who. Now that he's healthy and can move the puck, that's gold for a team. That's exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah,
and that's really what at the end of the day, Danny Briere was kind of banking on teams looking at that profile and being willing to take a swing with a first round pick. My thought had always been that Briere was going to maybe top out with a second round pick that might end up being a conditional first.
Yeah.
And he still ends up with a conditional first, but he pretty much is going to stay. He gets pretty much what he wants.
But we knew he wasn't getting a first on his own, that there had to be something else.
By itself, no. And I thought that was going to be a part of it, that they were going to have to take on salary in this circumstance in Johansson. It's just kind of funny it's Johansson considering the relationship between him and John Tortorella.
Talking to people over there,
he's already on waivers.
He's already on waivers, but I did talk to some people over there and said, is this definitely like a buyout? Is this going to be like, he's not going to be a Flyer? And that person said to me, no, that there's a good chance he will be playing for the Flyers.
Well, he has a contract next year, so.
Yeah, even though.
It may be a case where, again, you're shuttling him down to play with Lehigh Valley. I mean,
no,
I don't think so. I think
here's the question I have to ask: Is Johansson even going to report?
Yeah, I wonder that too.
That's the next question.
That's a lot of money, Russ. He's going to report.
Probably the question will be next.
He's going to report for that. The money he's making, Russ.
I know, but he's made it.
Yeah, I think he'll report. He'll probably end up reporting. The question is whether or not, if he goes through waivers, if he goes down to the Phantoms.
Well, that's the whole thing. He's going to go through. I don't think anybody's picking him up.
No.
Although his contract now is a lot less, right? I mean, it's like, he's at 4.5 now, I guess, or whatever. 4.25 or somewhere in there. Like
4. He's at 4.
Yeah, which is, starting to get into a different kind of spot, right? So maybe somebody, I don't think anybody picks him up, but, maybe. I would doubt it. The Flyers are willing to check and see
unless
if anybody...
they made the trade knowing that Johansson was going to be involved, that if they put him through waivers, another team would pick him up. Yeah,
they may have done that too. They may have done that. I mean, this is a pretty good, pretty smart little crafty trade for Danny Briere. I think this is his first trade as GM. I think it's pretty impressive. Like first trade,
good trade.
Trade like this at this level at the deadline and everything like that under the gun. He's made it really. He's shown here pretty good. Whoa, what's happening? Anthony left us for a second there. Okay, so there's that trade that goes on, and then the other trade we should talk about for a second is or not for a second or for whatever is Adam Henrique, who
please this
goes to Edmonton.
Yeah, this deal is insane because it's reflective of the fact that Kenny Holland's retiring. Because to give up don't get me wrong, I think Henrique is a good player and they got 50% retention. I think it was an extra pick in there. But to give up your first round pick in 2025 for a rental plug, and I'm saying plug in terms of plugging a hole, not a plug as a player. I mean, Sam Carrick is a depth guy, fine. But this is insane. It's absolutely insane that they gave up a first round pick for Adam Henrique. I don't get it, and their issues are not. I mean, they really didn't need another center unless they're going to play him playing at wing.
Yeah, I mean they do need another center, Mike. They really do actually. This allows them to put Draisaitl and
Nugent Hopkins together. That's what John Shannon said that today on.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah. So. I mean, that's what they're going to do. I don't think that's bad. I mean, I like Henrique. Do I think he's a great center? No. But he does add speed. He does add playoff, caliber play. It helps him. I mean,
he's really what they needed, Russ, in a lot of ways. I mean,
he is. Like, this whole season's bizarre, because preseason, I thought at least Edmonton could make it to the conference finals. Then they get harpooned, and I'm like, I jump off the ship, And now they're more fortified than ever. If Stuart Skinner can take the whole ride, and so far he looks good,
right?
And so I still can't make them the favorite, though. That's the weird thing.
No, they're not even the favorite in their division, let alone. Jesus Christ! I mean,
favorite in their division. I don't know. They're not favored in their division. I mean,
they're. I am sorry. Vancouver is a better team. Vegas is a better team.
Vegas is not a better team.
Yes, they are. Because Stone is coming back and Dallas, Winnipeg, and Colorado are better in the other conference. The Edmonton Oilers might not get out of the first round.
Well, a lot of teams might not get out of the first round, but I mean, I think this is and also Carrick is another good right-handed defenseman who they pick up, right?
They may not use him much. He's the depth guy.
You're thinking of Connor Carrick. Sam Carrick is
right. Sam Carrick's a forward.
Yeah, they're both former Leafs. That's why I know.
So I mean, both
guy though, right, Mike? I mean, that's all he is.
Yeah, I mean, early in his career, he was more of a 4A type of player. He's been with Anaheim for 3 or 4 years, and I think with any other team, he probably wouldn't have been in the NHL. But he's worked himself into being a decent fourth line energy guy. So if you want experienced NHL depth, you could do worse than Sam Carrick.
Well, when you say you shouldn't give him a first round pick, the bidding was high on Henrique. It really was. This was not like a player that someone was going to get a first round. I kept saying you're going to get a first round pick.
There were a few that were going to be given out, but there were conditions with these. They weren't just simple first round picks for your guy thing. They're not. Right. If you look at all the conditions, we couldn't even name all the conditions right now. It would take 5 minutes on what becomes a fourth, what becomes a sixth, what might be a fifth. It's this.
All those don't matter though. I mean,
I know.
It's first and second round picks matter, right? So that's what we've always first round picks especially, right? So to me, I mean, and Henrique brings in not some playoff experience, which is good. He brings in a defensive mindset, which is good. There's a lot of things Edmonton hasn't had a player like him in years. This is a different kind of player. I'm trying to think of who the last Henrique type player, like Craig McTavish, maybe. It's like you're going back a ways.
He's not a defensive specialist. I mean,
he's not a great.
He's a decent two-way player, but it's not like all of a sudden they just traded for Patrice Bergeron.
Oh no. But there aren't. I mean, there's only one Patrice Bergeron. They got like a guy. He's a solid 3 defense, Mike, and in three defense.
In Stratomatic terms, he's probably a 2 to 3.
I think he's a 3.
They wanted to upgrade from Ryan McLeod. I get it.
Yeah.
They're putting it all because, again, we all know Ken Holmes probably retiring at the end of the year.
Right.
And he's making trades as such.
But here's the problem with Edmonton, and they fall into this trap all the time. And when they do, they're going to lose. But they continue to not play Draisaitl up the middle and then match Draisaitl with McDavid. And they figure, okay, that's a matchup that nobody can shut down. And when somebody does, they lose. They need to play Draisaitl on the second line and McDavid on the first line. But do they do that? No, because they keep falling back in that same trap.
No, but this trade helps them do that, Mike. It helps them a lot. I mean, this trade puts them in a much better situation to do that. I
just kind of wonder back in 84 was like Mike saying, Edmonton's not going to win. They're never going to win. Did you say it back then?
No, because they were getting all the calls. That's why.
That's why. It wasn't the talent.
No, of course it was the talent.
And the Hyman trade hadn't happened either, so.
I knew you'd love that, Russ.
That was good.
Hyman signing, I guess.
Well, no, yeah. Hyman is. Well,
Hyman's a big time player.
He's a big time player.
By the way, for all you young people, Stratomatic is a board game. Zach Hyman in Stratomatic is a 5. He's a Selke Trophy type defensive player, but he's scoring 50 goals. So how good defensively can he be? That's what I'm saying. It's like he's devoting himself more to offense.
No, I mean, I think honestly, if you're scoring those kind of goals, you're not giving up many goals either. I mean, the reality is the best defense is good offense sometimes. So there is. But
this is my issue with this deal. It's okay. I wouldn't have given up a first round pick in Edmonton's position, but okay, fine, go ahead. But if you're giving up a first round pick and you're Edmonton and you have a bottom half of your defense of Cody Ceci, Vincent Desharnais, and Brett Kulak, you should be fired. You need to trade that first-round pick for a defenseman. You're not going to win unless you upgrade that blue line, and, of course, they didn't, so they're going to lose.
Well, that's the failing, no question.
Yeah.
But it's also harder to upgrade the blue line.
It is. It's harder and easier. There are some players out there that you can get. I mean, I don't think it's out. I don't think it's out of the question that they can
get Mark Stahl, but what's that going to do?
I mean, at Edmonton or somebody like that.
Even Edmonton probably slows them down too much.
He might. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, Seeler. They've been interested in Seeler too.
Sealer's staying now. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Act, because the reports out there that the Flyers are going to sign Seeler, and that's fine. If Tortorella likes Seeler, that's fine.
Love Seeler, not
love Seeler. Okay, but Russ, the reports is that the contract is an AAV of over $3 million.
$3.3 potentially.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's again, even if it's 2.7 like Matt says, but it's 4 years, you can't give a shot blocker like Nick Seeler 4 years. Like, this guy's blocking so many shots. Here's what Nick Seeler is. He's decent puck mover. He's a shot blocker, and once in a while a shot gets through. Yeah. That's what he is. You're now paying or giving term to the highest end for a shot blocker where, again, you might find out in a year Adam Henrique is that same guy, and you wouldn't have to spend this kind of money. But the problem is John Tortorella does love Nick Seeler. I never thought he would get traded. I've said that for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's right, but that just means as long as Torts is there, some decisions like this are going to be made. And so, but we did think that because we heard the Walker stuff, that whoever gave the best offer to them in their eyes, they were going to keep between Walker and Seeler. So Seeler won out on that. But again, if they go and get another veteran defenseman, all I could say is not only is this not a rebuild, but then you've got 3 defensemen there, young guys that maybe they just don't value like the same way that I do, and probably some other people around the league. And that's fine. Those are decisions that they'll live or die by in the future. Right? Because there'll be a big, if they don't believe in Adder, Zamula, or Ginning, right? There's a big two-year wait for Bond. And he's the next guy. So at least a 2-year gap, could be 3. You don't know on development, but probably 2. That's a big gap.
Now the two other deals that went down are very similar in structure, and I'll just say this, and that Anthony Mathis had a really good year. His issue has been staying healthy, but so far, knock on wood, he has this year. And Vegas gave up a 2 and a 4 to get him at 50% retained. And we know why they did that, and they're probably going to make another deal.
So Anthony texted us, guys, on Seeler, 4 years, 2.7 AAV.
Yeah, so 4 years is crazy.
4 years is crazy.
2.7 is good, though.
2.75 is what Labushkin.
Okay. But for 4 years, it's not okay. It's the same thing as Delorier.
Right.
I think that's an excellent sign.
Excellent? No, I don't.
No way.
Look at what he's been making the NHL, guys. If you think Sealer's a top 4 defenseman, which he could be,
He's not. That's the point.
Even all defensemen at least are going to make $2 million.
He is on a good team. He is a bottom pairing.
He's a 6.
He's a 6, and he's a penalty killer, and he blocks shots. So that's probably a $2 million, $1.75 million defenseman. They overpaid him by $1 million because Torts likes him.
This is the argument that I made for Delorier. Everybody's like, don't worry, the Delorier contract, it's not for a lot of money, but it's for a lot of years. And nobody wants Nick Delorier. If 2 years, if Seeler gets banged up, who's going to want him? And they're still going to, even if you send him to the minors, you still would have to pay 1.7 or whatever a year until his contract runs out. Like, they should have only signed him for 2 years. 4 years is crazy. But I'm just telling you, it blocks a lot of players. And if you think that Seeler is so much better than the 3 guys that I mentioned as far as who might be able to be a Flyer in the future on the blue line, that's the argument. That's the gamble.
That's a good argument. But the reality is, like, when you have 3 guys like that, one of them or 1.5 of them are not going to make it.
One probably doesn't make it. I agree.
And we know Seeler has made it. Like Seeler's proved it as NHL defense.
All you have to do is find one that does the same thing, and you basically that guy's 775 for a long time or 800 for a long time instead of 2.7 for the next 4.
Yeah. I would rather invest long term in Zamula than I would Seeler. But that but again, it's a question of
he doesn't fight and he doesn't block shots the same way. That's the
Torts like Seeler, and I'm not sure how maybe he's indifferent on Zamula. But the two trades that went down early this morning and yesterday that are very similar in structure. Again, Mantha, 50% retained, going for a 2 and a 4 to Vegas, and we know Vegas is going to add more, but they needed somebody to fill in for Stone. And the Tarasenko deal, 50% retained, going to Florida from Ottawa. Ottawa got a 3 and a conditional 4, and the conditional 4 is if the Panthers win the Stanley Cup. I'm sorry, Russ, I would rather have Tarasenko if I'm in Florida than Mantha with Vegas.
No, I mean, I would rather have Mantha only because he's got a better shot, and I think there's a chance he scores more goals in the playoffs. But I get it. Here's the thing, and this is what I was just saying to somebody else. Florida's the kind of team that could get Tarasenko, and if he doesn't score, it's not that big a deal.
Right, that's true.
But last year when Tarasenko didn't score that much for the Rangers, they needed him. And that's why they got him, and it mattered. For Florida, it's a secondary thing. But you don't want to hear people say, well, they got him for nothing, because like a potential 3rd and 4th is not nothing. I get you're thinking of 1st and 2nd round stuff. But still, a 3rd and 4th are valuable if you're talking you have 2 or 3 of those in all these drafts, because you're going to hit on a few eventually. Right. Maybe not every draft. I get it.
Oh, yeah, no.
Sure. Tarasenko, Andrew, just tell me what the rest of the league thinks of him, because Tarasenko 2 years ago would have brought you a 1st prospect. So clearly, it's not just me. A lot of people around the league don't love him.
No, that's true, and I think his value has been diminished, for a lot of different reasons, like you talked about, for a lot of different positions he's in. But at the end of the day, he's shown that as a playoff performer in St. Louis, he was really solid.
In St. Louis, he was great. Not every year, right? Just a cup year.
Yeah, but if and also remember how good he was in like the World Cup of Hockey for Russia.
Sure. I mean,
that's a while ago, granted.
He was a teenager, but yeah. Oh no, the World Cup. Sorry, yeah.
World Cup hockey, yeah. He just has the ability to add just a little more scoring. He adds and he keeps the speed of the Florida Panthers like blazing. This is the thing. Like he's going to wear number 10, which is pretty cool, because that's after it's a Pavel Bure obviously tribute. There, which is cool because Bure is the all-time leading. He's Bure's scored more.
I just hope that number doesn't weigh him down, because Pavel Bure would score a lot in the playoffs.
Right. So, but he's gonna. I think it's really. I mean, I think it's a really great move. It's one of those moves that I just think that
doesn't hurt them as long as they don't have to find a big place for him. If they just throw him in there and say, "Hey, listen, probably second power play and third line."
No, not third. I think second line.
Okay, so second line, second power play, then that's fine. But if Tarasenko, doesn't love that, then that would be a whole different thing.
Well, from what I understand, listening to a bunch of the shows this morning, Tarasenko has wanted to go to Florida, not just the Florida Panthers, but the state of Florida.
Right.
Obviously, a lot of the Russians do.
They do.
Wanted to go down there for years, and he finally got his opportunity, and I think he fits in. Remember, I was advocating Duclair as somebody going back to Florida, and Tarasenko is the same type of player. I think Duclair might be faster, but Tarasenko I think fits in with the sort of Barkov and Verhaeghe and Reinhart. And,
for sure.
So I think it's a good ad. I think it's a low risk ad. They got Ottawa to take 50%, but I think
they don't have any draft picks left.
Well, they may as well go in, Russ, because they're not going to have a pick until 2027.
I know.
Right.
I mean, at some point, they're just not going to show up for the draft like the Blues.
Yeah. No, I mean it's true. They definitely. I mean, but at the same time, they're the President Trophy team.
Listen, I get it. I mean, they're a big Stanley Cup threat. What's interesting is even with this trade, I still wouldn't put them higher than 3 as far as winning the cup.
Who are your top 2?
Colorado.
Yeah.
And there is still another team in the East. I got to see the way the rest of the deadline works out because I know Boston's plays falling off, but if they got the right center, like if they somehow get Lindholm, that's going to change the way I think about them.
Let's talk how bizarre this is.
Yeah.
The only thing I can draw from this is because people that we respect are all reporting that Lindholm might be flipped to the Bruins. The only thing I can think is that Vancouver tried to get Lindholm signed on an extension, and he doesn't want to. So now they're like, okay, well, we can flip him and get somebody else who might want to sign an extension. And it's like,
or they're pushing him to sign that extension now with that stuff in the press,
Right.
Yeah, but by doing this, by putting his name out there, it definitely changes things. It did. I mean, there are so many GMs I talk to right now that this time of year that want guys' names out there. Like I've called up people and said, are you really interested in so and so? I heard you're interested in so and so. And the person will say to me, no, but it's not bad if it's not bad if it's out there that I'm interested in. And I'll laugh and I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not going to do that. That's not what I do here.
Yeah.
Appreciate your honesty, but he's like, no, because they're trying to sign somebody, or they're trying to often quite they're trying to sign somebody and bring another defenseman in. It looks like that puts pressure on that player. Yeah, there's no question about it that happens a lot.
But you realize, and I know we all do, is that these general managers are playing chicken with a lot of these players. It's like they're like, okay, I don't think Seeler. I'm sure he just said, thank you, give me the 4-year deal instead of going to free agency where he probably wouldn't have gotten 4 years. Probably would have gotten.
No, I don't think they were bidding against anybody, but that's a whole other story for another day.
Yeah. But like the situation with Lindholm, the situation with Gensel, where apparently Pittsburgh is either not allowing teams to talk to him, or he doesn't want to talk to them about extensions. He wants to go free agency, and other players who they're sort of like, yeah, we want you to sign. It's like it's a situation where these general managers are trying to get these players locked up on a more favorable term. This is what would have happened. This is what would have happened with Toronto with Nylander had they waited all the way.
I'll be right back.
Okay, so I mean, Russ, it's bizarre that I mean, if that would have happened with Toronto in terms of Nylander, that would have been completely crazy, and then they probably would have paid more than the 11.5. But just touching on the contenders, it's like, okay, now the Florida's made their move. I think, because I've said right now there are 4 contenders in the East to come out of the East, and that's Florida, Boston, the Rangers, and Carolina.
Right.
Carolina's
like around 6 for me, like as far as contenders. To be honest,
in the East,
Boston and the Rangers are at 2. I don't know. Whoever does better on the deadline is probably going to sway me.
Yeah.
Right, but in the East, would you say those 4 are the top 4? Okay. Yeah, because I mean, Carolina, the chatter out there has been that they're in on Gensel.
Yeah. I just heard that Colorado might be in on Gensel. Check that out. So Colorado does that. I mean, they open up some cap space with these moves.
Well, what that tells you is they don't know if Landeskog is ever coming back.
Yeah.
Right. And they were hopeful early on.
Yeah. I mean, so but a lot of people, like Gensel's name is getting out there in a lot of different situations. Also, Nashville's very much in on Gensel, I was told. So,
but I don't think Nashville.
Breaking news.
What's that?
This because it came out. Sealer's got a no trade for the first 2 years.
Oh,
this is John Tortorella basically saying Nick Seeler has to be there for the length of my contract.
Yeah, this is Delorier 2.0, Russ. You called it. It's Delorier 2.0.
I actually like it. I mean, I know. I think it's I don't know. I think it's a steal.
And listen, he's a great guy, but all I'm telling you is, if in 3 years the Flyers are truly a Stanley Cup contender, Nick Seeler is not going to be playing the role you think he's going to be playing.
This is the issue with it. Is he an effective player in a particular role? Sure, but he is not that good of a player to give him 4 years and to give him $2.7 million. The reason they did it is because the coach likes him, and
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it for sure. But
that's bad management. That's bad.
I don't buy that because, I mean, $2.7 million in 3 years is not a lot of money, honestly, for a defenseman. With the cap going up and everything like that, that's going to be.
It's not a lot of money, but not for that type of defenseman.
I don't know. I don't agree. I mean,
I think, do you pay a 6th defenseman that kind of money?
Yeah, I think you do.
Oh no!
I think you have to. And when you look around the good teams, all good teams are all paying 6 defensemen that kind of money.
Except that you have young players that can play those roles. Like we're talking about,
the young players you're bringing in aren't 5th and 6th defensemen, Russ. You're talking about guys who are like top 4 guys. I mean,
no,
they're not.
What this tells you more than likely is that they think that they can move Ristolainen in the summer. Otherwise, because and they'll probably have to eat money to do. They probably have to eat money to do that. But yeah, I mean, you don't sign Nick Seeler for $2.7 million if you think that you're going to have a $5.1 million defenseman who does basically the same thing in Rasmus Ristolainen. That's the thing.
Yeah, Ristolainen now, like that. Now the pressure's on to do something with him because he's going to be hard to trade. They're going to have to retain money. All of that. I mean, they still have so many defensemen, and if they're going to go, I don't know if they're going to go after another one, but still, yes, we know Newbie. We know that Risto is out, but he'll be back at some point.
Yeah, he will be back at some point. All right, so let's talk about some other things that I'm hearing out there. I want to talk about the Markstrom trade with New Jersey a little bit because this has gotten.
Oh, you mean the hypothetical?
Hypothetical. I actually got more information on this. I'm sorry if I keep checking texts.
No, that's fine.
I actually have more information on this. So then this is exactly what went down, which is kind of it's fun to hear like exactly what went down. So so Markstrom had told them the whole time that he only come to me if you've got a trade done, and then I'll decide whether or not I want to go there. But I'm not gonna do this hypotheticals and stuff like that. He just said only come to me if the trade's done. So Calgary comes to him thinking the Calgary, so that Markstrom he's like the trade's done because I told you only come to me if the trade's done. Calgary says it's done to him. Tells Markstrom it is done. Markstrom prepares to go to New Jersey. Then New Jersey's all ready to make this deal. The wheels are already in motion to announce the deal. When Calgary calls back and says, "No, actually, we kind of have reconsidered it, and we don't think the deal is done." And New Jersey's like, "Well, you did say it was. It's kind of we're doing a little bit like the old Lindros thing. You did say it was done." And then Calgary says, "Well, our owner refuses to let us
They don't retain salary."
Right. The owner says we can't retain salary. And that's what happens here. That they were willing to retain salary.
No, I get that. But my whole thing with Fitzgerald was this. I get what you're saying. But they waited so long that now the SS Devils is sinking for this year, where had they just not worried about the retention, which they could have taken it, and they not haggled over that, they could have gotten him when they needed him. Now they're getting him for next year because they're not making it this year.
Well,
yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, this is the thing, and I think this is, I'm not trying to slag the guy, but clearly this is a reflection of the inexperience of Craig Conroy. If you don't have your owner in tow in terms of what you want to do on a trade, like I made a trade, I've got this and this for Markstrom, and then you go to the owner and says, I'm going to make this deal, and the owner says, well, I don't want to retain any money. Well, you need to know that before you say the deal is done.
Knows that.
Right. I mean, the only player that they've ever retained salary on was David Rittich when they traded him to the Leafs, and that was for a third-round pick, and he was an expiring contract, and even then they didn't want to retain salary. So going in that they don't want to retain salary.
But here's the other thing, Ek. So let's say we take away the Markstrom part. Fitzgerald just failed to fortify the blue line too. Getting McDermott was not fortifying the blue line when you have young guys on it. So
McDermott was clearly just to fight your guy in New York.
Right, but now, right. But the thing is, hold on. So now, first day for Travis Green, he sits Nemeth. Okay, but I mean, like you don't have enough good defensemen that could even replace him in the lineup right now. That's the problem.
Here's the issue, and unfortunately, again, Lindy Ruff, I didn't think it from the very beginning was the right hire for them, but he did do a good job. Russ and I were talking about this. He did do a good job last year.
He ended up doing a good job last year.
Yeah, they got him into the playoffs. They won a series against who I thought was a better team in the Rangers. But this year, they didn't get the goaltender. They didn't fortify the blue line after they traded Severson to Columbus. After they let Graves walk, they didn't replace. And then Dougie Hamilton goes down, and Heischier and Hughes go down for lengthy periods. Yeah. They didn't have enough depth and enough experience, and Timo Meier has been a complete friggin' bust. So who's the fault here? It's Tom Fitzgerald. He didn't get the guys that they needed to get to win. But Lindy Ruff took the fall after they.
You can't sit there and say that the injuries. Fitzgerald put a team together that I think is a pretty solid team.
Oh, but I did say at the time that they've been trying to get rid of Severson for 2 years, and he was valuable to the Devils. He was. I never got it.
Yeah, no, you're right. He was. They've been trying to get him for even more than that. I feel like feels like he's been on the trading block forever. I think it'll be interesting to see if Holtz is involved in one of these trades. Because the other thing
do that, they really.
I heard now is the other thing that the big backup plan seems to be Ullmark. That they're going to go after Ullmark. And the Bruins are willing to trade Ullmark. The Bruins have talked to a lot of people. They're obviously
they're not going to trade Ullmark in season. I would be shocked.
Well, Russ, it does sound like they're because they think Swayman.
I know, but don't you think they want the insurance?
You would think so, but I guess right now they have
no. Maybe you're right. I mean,
they have no maneuvering. Like, so say for example, they want to get Lindholm. They have no room to add Lindholm.
Well, true. But there's other salaries.
It holds for Ullmark. That's the thing. So that's like the interesting question there.
Yeah, if it's Holtz for Ullmark, sure, they can make that deal. But here's the only problem, Mac. For 1 million years now, and it's 1 million, the Devils have been looking for a goal scorer.
Yeah.
They still don't have a true goal scorer. Holtz might be the true goal scorer, but you have to actually let him play more than 5-6 minutes, 7 minutes on the fourth line to find that out.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So that's the thing. It's like you may be trading the one thing you need the most.
You're not wrong. I mean, I don't.
Or the second thing, but it's something that's eluded them for many years.
Yeah, right. The guy that they signed for, I think $8.5 million, Timo Meier. Does he have 10 goals already? I mean, I don't know if he does.
Yeah, Timo Meier has really been a bad decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean,
but I will say this:
I'd
be surprised if Ullmark goes because I heard they might trade Lysell, and Lysell is a really good trade chip.
Well, Russ, you might be right. Maybe they keep Ullmark for the rest of the year. But the problem is that they want to make a move like Lindholm. I mean, DeBrusk is an expiring contract, so he really has no value. And I mean, in terms of you could move him out, but you move him out for a draft pick, and then I don't know how that works. They don't have the cap space.
If they move him out for a draft pick, he still could re-sign with them in the offseason, but. Yeah. I don't think they'll have the appetite to do it because they barely have the appetite to keep it.
Right. True. I'm trying to think what else on my big board here. I've got.
Well, we should talk about Wenberg because let's
talk about Wenberg and the Rangers. That was my next thing.
That's the one they keep talking about. Look, would it be a fit? Sure, it would be a fit. The fact that Emily Kaplan came out and said the Rangers aren't going to trade Offman or. What's his name?
Cooley.
No, not Cooley. No.
Gabe Perreault.
Gabe Perreault. I don't believe GMs this time of the year. Now, I don't believe they'll trade Perreault, but I don't believe GMs at this time of the year. So when I hear a quote like that, I completely don't believe it. And I don't know if Seattle's asking for Offman. I'm sure the Rangers would do it if they got more in return. But Wenberg is he would be good. Mm-hmm. I still don't think they have to shoot that high, but I know others would like them to because it makes them feel better when you go into playoffs. But their need at wing and their need on defense are just as great.
Well, Russ, more times than not, when GMs come out and say, "Well, we're not going to trade this guy, that guy, this guy," they're putting their reputation on the line. And honestly, if then all of a sudden they trade one of those guys, they look like an idiot.
It does happen. We've seen it happen.
Right. I mean, sometimes they do it to raise the value of the player, and then you think, okay, but for example, all of a sudden, I don't understand how this Hanifin deal gets done with Tampa. Now, Tampa's got the cap space, but reportedly, Calgary wants Isaac Howard, and Tampa doesn't want to give up Isaac Howard. So now we're talking about Ethan Gauthier and Nick Perbix in a first round. If I'm Calgary, I'm like.
No.
Okay, I mean, no.
I can get more for Hanifin somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. It's a rental. You know what? If you want to sign with Tampa Bay, okay, sign in the offseason, enjoy. But I'm trading him for the best deal I can get, not where you want to go.
I could see them giving up Howard if Hanifin says he'll sign.
Right.
Then I could see it. Howard's a really good top 6 guy. But
Right.
again, if you're getting Hanifin on a longer term deal, I could see that happening. And maybe that's what it turns into. Maybe
Right.
that's what it has to turn into. But if not, I feel like they could get a lot for Hanifin. Like, I still think Hanifin can bring a first, but some year, not in 2030. And
yeah,
you know, the funny thing about it is, we're talking about some players now, and I'm like, yeah, that guy may not play until 2029.
I know. How about that? I know.
I mean,
I know. It's just insane.
It's insane.
But right. But look at it this way. It's like, I mean, in a situation with Hanifin, it's like, I mean, again, if you're Conroy, I'm trading to the place that I get the best deal. Now, you might be right. It's like, okay, the team that is willing to sign him for 8 years might give you the most, but they probably think, okay, we've got them by the short hairs because he wants to sign here. Okay, well then sign there in the summer. And part of this deal with Tampa, if they're sending Perbix out or they're sending Eric Cernak out or somebody like that, they have to send salary someplace else. And I don't know about Tampa in a situation where, okay, we said it the last show. If they're trading for Hanifin, then Stamkos is probably gone. There's just certain, there are limits. You have no draft picks. You have very few prospects, and you have no cap space. Other than that, you're great. You're fine.
Vetrano is another one that's coming up a lot. Salary is high.
It's unbelievable the sales job that they're doing on Vetrano. Like, this guy is going to get you to the promised land.
I know. I mean, he is a good player.
He's good. He is good, but nobody wants him for the regular season. Can we all be honest and say
the money is just so much for him? I mean, it's just
right.
his cap is really high. The interesting thing that I heard today is that the Chicago Blackhawks have interest in him. I like that idea. Like, I think that's a concept that I can get behind.
The Blackhawks are looking for guys to play with Bedard, start building out their second line. They've got Kurchinski. They're not going to be that far away. They have prospect goalies.
Right, and they've got lots of cap space, so they could turn around and make. They could. I think it makes sense to see Vetrano.
And they have a ton of draft picks, but we've noticed this with Chicago. They're very smart in terms of how they're structuring things. They gave Dickinson a 2-year deal.
Right.
They gave Foligno a 2-year deal. Why only 2 years? Because Bedard's contract will be up at that point, and Bedard will probably sign him for 8 years for like $11 million. Yeah. So at that point, they won't need those guys to be salary cap eaters.
Right.
But then that might be what I mean, they traded for Beauvillier simply as a salary dump. So I don't think they would give Anaheim a lot, but I think they would give him something because he's a decent player. But I think that if Anaheim retains salary on him, they can trade him to somebody who I think needs him in terms of a contender before they trade him to Chicago for a draft pick or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I do think that it'd be interesting to see like what we saw like Buffalo get involved today. You're going to see teams that aren't in the playoffs, and I've been saying this for a while.
Well, I mean, Buffalo is going to be, because this trade came out of nowhere. I mean, like I said, Russ and I have been talking about Middlestat and him being traded for a while. We thought the possibility was going to be in the summer. It was very remote that it was going to happen before the deadline. But them getting Byram probably, that was too good for them to turn down. And I think they were going to trade him in the summer, so you strike while the iron is hot. But they're going to trade Oposo. They held out Eric Johnson today. He's going to get traded, maybe Gergensons. But again, this is going to require the Buffalo Sabres and GM Kevin Adams to do something that they don't want to do, and that's retain salary, because Johnson's 3.25 and Gergensons and Oposo are 2.5, and nobody wants them at that salary.
No, but I think the Rangers could take out Oposo at 2.5. The only thing is, I only think they want him if they strike out in a lot of other areas. That I think they would take him, and he could satisfy their need on the wing. But he's not going to be a big point producer, I think.
No, he's not. And the thing is, I get the feeling, and nobody told me this, but in just being around the Sabres, covering them, I just get the feeling that the respect for Raposo, him being a captain, him being in Buffalo for 8 years, that this is something like, well, him and Adams talked, and if he has a chance to go to a contender that he wants to go to, right? That, but if it's like, I'm going to trade you to Nashville.
Right.
And that's nothing against Nashville, but if it's not a team that he thinks can win a Stanley Cup, that even though he doesn't have a no move or no trade, if he doesn't want to go there, then he has a sort of unofficial no trade. Johnson, I think they'll trade him anywhere, and Johnson seemed open to it. But Oposo being the captain and being so respected in the room, especially after the traumatic moving of Middlestat, who was well liked in the room,
yeah.
I don't think they'll go down that road unless it's a place that Oposo wants.
We do have to mention the Islanders because Palmieri has gotten hot, and other guys have
not over, Mike. It's not over.
It's not over for them. Like, even for them to catch the Flyers, it's not over because points behind with 3 games in hand.
It's on how unfair of you. I'm not home, so I don't have. I have the sign at the ready. But okay, you have to
admit they've rebounded a little better than we thought.
They've rebounded a little bit, but here's the problem. Lou Lamoriello just came out and said, "Well, we're going to add. We're never going to subtract. We're going to add. With what, Lou? With what?
Make the hockey trade. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah. Okay. With what? I mean,
here's what he's going to do. He's going to have to upset the duo of Cal Clutterbuck and/or Matt Martin and trade one of them with a pick to get somebody.
That's Chicago. Trade Matt Martin to Chicago with the draft pick.
Right.
Something along those lines. I know. I'm hearing more and more the Red Wings are still very much in on Hanifin too. So that's something we got to watch.
I mean, that would really help them, but their goaltending, I still think would let them down. But I get it. They make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, fans are happy. I get it.
Isn't it odd that, because everybody's saying, well, Hanifin in Boston, he's from Boston. Is this one of the deals where he's from a certain place and he doesn't want to play for that place?
No, he wants to play there. Everybody said.
Well, supposedly he wants to play in Tampa.
The conditions aren't right. Maybe in the offseason, your cap space for him.
But Tampa's not going to trade for him unless he signs a contract.
True.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, we don't know that.
Yeah, we don't know that, but we think that though.
We think that, but we don't know.
Definitely think. I mean, Tampa doesn't have a lot. I would think that. I mean, Zegras is another one too. I'm still hearing more about him possibly moving. Anaheim, I think, is going to do some major stuff. Zegras is another one I've heard with Detroit. So got to get in touch with Kevin.
I mean, Zegras has died down. I think the Rangers had interest.
Yeah, they did.
I don't know that for sure, but I think they did.
We've got to find out with Zegras what his injury status is, because teams like the Rangers, who are going into the playoffs, who want him.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's died down though, Mike. I don't hear as much Zegras talk lately. Doesn't mean it won't heat up again in the next 2 days.
Yeah,
but it does seem like it's died down a bit.
Yeah, and in the Leafs sphere, it doesn't seem like they made the move for Lyubushkin, which was sort of a minor move, but it plugged a hole. Yeah. I get the feeling that really if they may add a depth forward or a depth defenseman, but I just don't think they're going to keep their powder dry. It doesn't seem like they want to trade any of their. They don't want to trade the 2024 first-round pick. They don't want to trade Matthew Nyes or Nick Robertson or Easton Cowan or Fraser Minton. They just don't want to do it. So if they can get,
or I put up today.
Oh, I saw. Heck, they're not going to.
I knew you would like this at all.
But. Yeah, no, but okay. I don't see them trading. It's sort of pointless to trade when you're in need of defensive upgrade. To trade one of your top 4 defensemen for another top 4 defenseman,
well,
who's not even as good defensively as the guy that you traded.
Well, the thought is they're upgrading.
Yeah, well, I mean, the rumor I put out there for those agencies is Parayko for Brodin and Robertson was the two.
Brody.
Brody and Robertson. Yeah.
I watched Parayko live recently, and not live. Watched him the other night on TV. A couple games. He's looking fine, but I don't think the Leafs would get that lucky. I don't.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, honestly, from the Blues' perspective, unless they're looking to dump a long-term contract, which I believe Parayko has got another 5 or 6 years at 6.5.
Probably 5. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay.
He's long term for sure.
Yeah, he's long term. Brody's an expiring contract.
Yep.
And Robertson is a good young prospect who's had injury issues, but maybe needs a change of scenery and like to play someplace else. Because I think he's got 25 to 30 goal talent. It's just he's sort of stuck. He's sort of stuck on the third line in Toronto. But if you're Doug Armstrong,
I was just told Wenberg to the Rangers is done.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know yet. I'm looking into it. I got to put something up here. Keep talking.
I will bet it's probably a second round pick.
Yeah, I would think a second.
But my point is that from the St. Louis perspective, Brody and Robertson is not enough for Parayko unless they're looking to dump Parayko, and I don't think they're looking to dump him. If it was Torrey Krug, then I would say okay, that's who they're looking to dump. But Parayko is a big right-handed defenseman. I don't think he's. That if he fits what Treliving likes in terms of big players, but he doesn't play like a big player. He's not a big physical, tough defenseman.
Right. No, he's not that, but he moves the puck extremely well.
Yes.
He'd be a great quarterback. He would really definitely add a lot to their defense, I believe.
Yeah, that might be a move in the summer act, but I don't see them making that kind of move right now because I don't think Treliving, he can't, and of course Treliving can't say this, but he can't. I don't believe that he thinks that the Leafs are in a position to expend the type of assets to get a player that they're not one player away. They're 2 or 3 players away, and they can't.
They don't think they're 2 or 3 players away, though, Mike. That's the thing. You can sit there and say that, but they don't. That belief does not exist in that organization.
Well, I get it. I understand that might be the public because you got to remember if they said, well, we're not going to add because we don't think we're good enough, he would get excoriated by the Toronto media. They can't say it. But by him coming out and saying, I don't want to trade the 2024 first round pick unless it's a deal that makes sense. And the deal that makes sense is for a player that's got term. Okay. But the problem is, like, if it's a Parayko, they don't have the cap space to be able to make that deal. That you're saying, well, Brody, okay, that's $5 million, but Parayko's making 6.5. So you got to open up another $1.5 million. And it's 6.5 going forward for a number of years. It's just it's an issue for them.
Mike, the cap is going up. It's not like it's not going to go up. So
I know, but you see, that's the thing. You can't depend on the cap going up every year to bail you out of some of these things. Actually.
Right, and
that's why the GMs did that. They all got in trouble because there was a pandemic.
Yeah, and
all of a sudden there's a World Bank collapse. You're planning on the cap going up 4 years from now still, right?
Yeah.
Matthew in the chat says it's a 2 and a 4 with Seattle retaining 50% for Wenberg. That's not confirmed, but that's what he's saying. So
that's a pretty good trade.
Yeah, no, that's in the 2 was
that move.
The 2 was for Wenberg and the 4 was to retain the salary. So
you can see last night, and I watched a lot of that Rangers-Panthers game, and I think they are the 2 best teams in the East. And watching them play each other, you could see where Wenberg would help in that game. Like you can see where he would help Rangers in that game.
Well, when Wenberg fits in, because now, you've got Zibanejad as your number 1 center. I don't know if they move Trocheck down to 3 or keep him at 2, but now Wenberg is your 2 or 3 and Trocheck is the other one. That lengthens, and they can move Brzezinski down to the number 4, which is really good, Russ. So,
that's his definite place.
And then you move Goudreau to the wing.
Yeah, Goudreau can go to the wing. Even Brzezinski can play the wing. It's fine. Either way, one way or the other, they were going to be able to fix that. So, yeah, they fixed it.
Yeah, they fixed it.
That's better than Tyler Mott.
Yeah, that's their move. Maybe they add a depth defenseman before the deadline if there's somebody out there that doesn't cost them a ton. So they don't have to, Jan will love this. So they don't have to play Eric Gustafsson. But yeah,
you know that.
Oh well, they should. It's going to end up costing them a ton.
I was just going to text saying, and I heard this earlier today, that the Flyers have interest in Jake Allen. I could see that making a lot of sense for them.
Well, that's admitting that Carter Hart's never playing again. Obviously.
We're not coming back this year.
It's not even that. Okay, hold on. So this is, and that's fine. Listen, if they do this, I will never, ever, ever say that they're even trying to rebuild again because they're going to get Jake Allen. They're going to keep him for a couple of years. Like they're trying to.
Rebuild is over.
Like, don't you want the backup to be like somebody like that? That's who you want. That if whoever
they're doing that because they want to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
they miss the playoffs and do it, and they give up assets in the interim. Like that still doesn't look great. But okay, they're trying to make the playoffs. Honestly, how far do you think they can go in the playoffs?
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, like last year, Florida finished 8th and went all the way, right? But I don't see the Flyers.
Look at the lineup. I mean,
I'm not saying. I mean, Florida President Cup trophy winner the year before that.
But this was the biggest shell game that I've ever seen in my life in terms of we're going to rebuild, and then they have a good 3 months, and they're in the playoff mix, and now they've completely abandoned the rebuild. They've re-signed Seeler. They traded Walker because they got a first-round pick for it. But this is not. I don't. If this is a rebuild, then they redefined rebuild. It's a rebuild, but you happen to be like the one like Cinderella story in the league this year. So people are like, you also have to like. At some point in Philly, it goes from like, wow, the Flyers are doing better than they should, to the Flyers fans expecting playoffs. Okay,
so let's say they make the playoffs this year.
Right.
Where's the guarantee they're going to make it next year?
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
What happened with the Devils?
Oh yeah, but this is the Flyers are no question ahead of schedule if they make the playoffs this year, right? They're not supposed to make the playoffs this year or even next year, probably. But if they do make it this year, that's something that you have to, you can't build off of that as not being positive in some way, shape, or form. They will find a way to make that a positive thing, for the players who are there now, at least to get the experience of going through the playoffs, to get the whole, there are positives to that, Russ. It's not just like
Sure, but the short-term positives of making it to the playoffs with a short-term coach that they have compared to what we thought was going to be a long-term build to be good for a long time. Honestly, what they're doing here is really no different than what Paul Holmgren did and a lot of other Flyers GMs.
Right. See, this is the thing that they don't seem to understand.
But there's no way to get Jake Allen. That's the only way I'm saying.
Right. I mean, that's a stopgap measure.
Well, I mean, Carhart's not going to be back this year, right? So
he's not going to be back ever.
Yeah, he could.
Might never be back, but he might. There's no saying that Carhart's definitely out.
For the Flyers, he will never be back for the Flyers.
But the issue here is,
it's a 2-year process just for the trial.
He's still very young, and I don't think that there's never. I don't think saying forever is anything.
Even if the 5 players are cleared, it's a Trevor Bauer situation,
right,
where these teams will not touch them because they're radioactive, even if they're cleared. Trevor Bauer was cleared. No major league team will ever hire him again.
Okay, so hold on. I'm going to say this to Timothy Park. If they get Allen and Sam Ersson is still the starter, then it's even a bigger waste of time, because how many starts do you think Sandstrom or any backup for the Flyers is going to get down the stretch? 3?
Well, to me, let Sandstrom continue to develop, right? I mean, wouldn't you do that rather?
He's only out. I would agree, because again, his contract is up after this year, so you got to see what he is.
And I'll also give you the scenario that the only way that a Jake Allen trade makes sense is if you're sending Cal Peterson back to Montreal to get rid of his salary. Otherwise, you're loading yourself with.
Then you're going to have to give them a pick.
Right.
I mean, I can see something like that happening. Yeah. I mean, it's not like a high pick, but there's definitely something like that happening.
They've got Caden.
Montreal's got 3 goalies right now. Montreal doesn't want 3 goalies. I mean, there's a team that.
No, but Peterson's cleared waivers and he's down.
Why would Jake Allen go to the Flyers on a chance to make the playoffs when he could probably go to another team that's got a much better chance?
Well, if he can, then he'll go to another team. But I don't know that he's going to.
Well, that's the thing. I guess we'll find out.
We know that there are a couple contending teams that are probably looking for a 1B, a team
is Colorado too.
Colorado, exactly, because they got Anand as their backup, and I think they want somebody. God forbid if Georgiev gets hurt.
I would go there just because I could get a ring.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, that could be the case. I mean, there's, New Jersey's going to add somebody. New Jersey could be, if they don't get Markstrom, they're going to add somebody. They're not.
You should have added somebody 4 weeks ago.
I know, but they're not bowing out of this playoff race yet.
Yeah, but and I've heard this.
Playoff race will bow out from them.
I've heard this talked about before. It makes no sense for them to go. I mean, Allen is a stopgap. He's got another year, I think 3.85.
Yeah.
Okay, they need a long-term solution in goal. Long term. And 1 year is not. Now you could re-sign him, but he's 33, 34 years old. They need, and Markstrom's 34, or at least he's signed for another 2 years. You go out and you get Saros, you go out and get Elvis Merzlikins, somebody who's got term on their contract who you think is good. Otherwise, you're not addressing the issue if you're New Jersey. They're a good goalie and maybe a defenseman away from being a playoff team. But Tom Fitzgerald dropped the ball this year.
Well, I think it's injuries. I mean, I really do, and I don't think. I mean, if Tom Fitzgerald, I just don't agree. I think if Fitzgerald
2 years for a goalie, it's not just this year.
Listen, the goalie, I'm not saying but they've tried. It's not like they haven't tried.
No, I'm not saying. Okay, I'm not saying they haven't tried, and I do. And as I said before, losing Hamilton for the year and losing Heischier and Hughes for a month each time definitely had an effect. But teams can sort of suck those losses up if they play good defense and if they have good goaltending, and they don't, and that's the problem.
And they know that, and they have tried in many different ways to get goalies. I mean, they've gone out there, Remember they what was it?
Then wait. If they tried, then why do they have Akira Schmid, Nico Dawes, and Vitek Vanacek? They haven't tried. You've got to give up something to get something.
Right.
If you're gonna give up,
who should they have gotten, Mike? What's the goalie out there that they should have gotten?
Well, all right. So as an example, I believe they'd have Markstrom ready already if they would have given up Mercer.
No, it was Saros.
Oh, Saros. Sorry,
Saros,
because Dawson Mercer was the guy they asked for. That's right. Mike's right.
And they didn't want to give up Mercer. Okay, fine. Then if the difference is, we give up Holtz to Calgary for Markstrom, and you take the whole salary, which, by the way, after all the strang and drong that went on, they said, "Oh, we'll take the full salary." After they put the cart before the horse here.
I don't think I've ever heard them say that they'll take the full salary.
No, it came out last week. They said that they were open to taking the full salary.
I don't believe that one for a second.
Okay, well, I mean,
where that came from, or who put that out there? That sounds like something Calgary would have put out there, but I don't believe that for a second.
Somebody put it out. You may be right on that.
I mean, I don't buy that one at all. I mean, Omark is another option, like we said before. I do think that you will see something. You'll see New Jersey. New Jersey will have a goalie, and the other thing they'll trade for. They will pick up a goalie.
Okay, but I mean,
I'm not saying that it's going to help them this year, but if you're going to do that, why not go after a goalie that's going to help you multiple years?
There's going to be 17 games left. They're going to have to win 16 of 17.
If you get from Markstrom, at least you're setting yourself up. You can always say this year was a bad year for injuries, but at least you have that goalie now moving forward.
They could just as likely make that move in the summer, because honestly, you go out and get a goaltender now, and you say you win 11 of the last 17. All you're doing is lowering your draft situation. So do we think they need a goalie? Of course we do. Now that they're 8 points out of a playoff spot, there's no point. Just play out the season with the guys that you have, and then go in the summer and get the goaltender.
Heck, when I was at the Stadium Series before it started, I was talking to a lot of people, and that's when everybody believed it was going to happen the next day.
Right.
And it didn't happen. And then look what's happened since then, even though they won in that game.
Right. Oh yeah, no, I know.
That's when they needed it.
But they made a deal, and Calgary screwed them. I mean, that's the other thing too. You have to remember.
There's other goalies in the sea. That's my point.
There are, but I think that the idea is like you've talked about, they don't have necessarily. I don't know. I'm going around in circles, but I really think that they have to eventually pick up a goalie for long term. Not because the playoffs this year, like you said, are not a guarantee by any stretch of the imagination. They're probably not making the playoffs, but that doesn't mean you don't have one next year where you get all these healthy guys back, get Hamilton back, get all that stuff back. And now you have a goalie too. New Jersey comes to factory.
What's Calgary's motivation to not wait until the draft to see if they can get more picks and not worry about
or other teams involved, like LA or other teams?
There's no real. I mean, what's Calgary motivation is they they obviously like what New Jersey offered them because they made that trade. The reality is whatever they were getting from New Jersey, they liked. So but they wouldn't, the whole money thing just blew it up. So there's something there that they like. So whoever they're getting, they like.
It's hard to sell a fan base on this when you beat the Rangers, made the playoffs last year. There were high expectations this year. Injuries are a part of the sport. You can't use that as an excuse for them.
No, I mean, you can't use an excuse, but, to sit back and say, that Fitzgerald has dropped the ball, I don't think that that's fair in that situation.
Well, I mean, has he done anything? He picked up McDermott. What else has he done?
I mean, he hasn't done much this year. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
And obviously, gosh, like we talked about, the thing from San Jose has not worked out, right?
No.
I mean,
and we talked about that. I had said this isn't going good in the playoffs. Maybe they should wait this out and see what he does, and they didn't.
I know. No, and there I agree with you. I mean, whether or not he can get back to his game at all.
No, I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't, right?
Right.
But for whatever reason, he's not fitting in there.
No, I don't disagree. That's all the time I have for today, folks. We will be back again tomorrow with more trade deadline, and then we'll be back again, of course, on Friday with the big show, with guests galore and all kinds of fun things on tap. So remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Enjoy the rest of the day, and with only 3 games tonight, I'm telling you, there's going to be more trades.
I'm at one of them. Oh yeah,
we're not done yet, and I have to end the show, Mike. So I'm sorry about that. So this is really anticlimactic, but remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey, and